My thoughts on hydro fluids for garden tractors. That's what we're going to call this video. So take it at that. I don't want to hear any discussion about what you put in your Chevy, what you put in your Ford, or what you put in your John Deere subcompact, or what you put in your John Deere walk-behind mower, or what you put in your Simplicity or anything else. We're going to talk about John Deere garden tractors and their fluid, and their transaxle fluid or hydro fluid. So there is tons and tons and tons of discussion out there. So what I've done is I've actually gone out. Normally I just keep low-vis high guard on hand. But what I've done is I've gone out and I've bought regular high guard, and I bought an offshoot or off-brand ISO 32 fluid, which is similar. Low-vis high guard is ISO 32 fluid. High guard is an ISO 4668 fluid. It's in between there. And then you have, I already had the ATF Type F from my Johnson loader. So you can go ahead and see the price per quart that I paid. That is straight off of the receipt. So we have $3.83 for the low-vis high guard, $2.12 per quart for the off-brand ISO 32 fluid. I paid $5.12 for the high guard. About had a heart attack. That's $20 and some odd cents bottle right there. And then $4.39 for the ATF Type F. However, I did see it for $3.83 in Walmart. I think that's what I saw it for. So there's some variation there. That's just what I had on hand, and I looked it up online for the same brand, and for the Citgo brand, and that's what I found online. Obviously, these prices are going to change, but that's what I paid, particularly for these two. That's what I paid today. This one was on sale. Normally it was $16.99 for 2 gallons, and normally I think it's $19.99, something like that. So, yeah. I've already poured. I'm not really concerned about ATF Type F, but what I've done is I have poured all 3 of those fluids into a clear mason jar, and you can see the difference. And what I will do is I will actually pour them back into the containers on video. By no means is that a scientific test for viscosity, but that will it'll demonstrate viscosity. So the biggest question with John Deere garden tractors and the fluid to use is everybody says, well, John Deere fluids are overpriced. Well, they may very well be, but you know what? In the end, you're talking about less than 16 cents an hour of runtime. I think that's what I calculated out to one time. Over a 200-hour fluid change on a X series with the K92 transaxle, it's 16 cents an hour difference between, say, an off-brand and a low viscosity high guard fluid. Also, temperature range that you operate at certainly plays a role in which fluid you choose. So if we look at the high guard fluid, we can tell, if you look at it, it's a little bit more viscous. It's hard to kind of see that on camera, but it's a little less viscous than, say, the low-vis. You see how that moves a lot faster? And then the off-brand smells funny. I will just go ahead and admit that. I opened up the bottle and it actually reeks. The high guard, both high guards don't really have all that smell. Even they smell like oil. But the Harvest King anti-wear hydraulic oil, ISO 32, actually does stink. And I don't know what that is from, but you can clearly see the color differences. High guard is marketed a lot of times for anti-wear. And I mean, this is anti-wear as well. But why the color change between the two fluids? I'm not really sure. So one of the biggest differences that we're going to talk about, or I want to talk about, is the fact that high guard is a J20D spec or C spec, and low-vis high guard is a J20 D spec. So C spec, D spec. Nowhere on this bottle right here does it say J20 D spec. Now, also at the same time when I was in the store, there is a off-brand JD20C spec fluid that they sell for the same $16.99. So that is something, obviously $16.99 for 2 gallons or $2.12 a quart is a lot cheaper than $5.12 for a quart. So, you know, I can't comment a whole lot about the ISO 42 fluid or 4268 fluid. But they also sell the case, High-Tran, whatever it is. So, you know, I don't know if it's a ploy just to fit manufacturer specs. But what I'm trying to, the whole point of this video, and why you've listened to me the last 5 minutes and 30 seconds, is if you actually look at the fluids, and, you know, John Deere's out there recommending low-vis high guard for the K92 transaxle. That's what we're talking about in this case. Sure, yes, Tough Torque may recommend ATF Type F. Clearly, ATF Type F is more expensive, the couple places I found it, or the same price based on the one that I saw in Walmart. In the manuals for the K92, the X7 series, it's particularly the X5, 4-5, and 5-5 series, specifies either high guard or low-vis high guard. And in the newer manuals, so for the X7 series, it specifies low-vis high guard only. Your guess is as good as mine as to why it specifies low-vis high guard only. I can tell you based on clutch chatter, and I will not make one of my clutches chatter. That's something I'm not going to do. If I eventually find a really cheap K91 out of a 4 series, sure, I'll fire it up and let the clutch chatter away, because I'm actually looking for like a 425, 445, or 455 to be a yard tug. But yeah, I'll turn it on, let that clutch just chatter away, let you listen to it. That is probably one of the reasons that Deere does not recommend ATF Type F for the K92 and the X7 series, or it tells you not to use it, even though Tough Torque tells you to use it. You also need to be concerned about, since 2009, all of the four-wheel drive units use a hydrostatic front wheel assist unit. So you have to take into account all the fluid considerations for everything. That fluid is going to end up in the steering valve, it's going to end up in all the implements, it's going in all the hydraulic cylinders, it's going to end up in the steering cylinders, it's going to end up in the front axle for the four-wheel drive units, and then also in the transaxle. So that's kind of one of the reasons I think Deere recommends the low-vis high guard. Let me get it all set up, and we'll actually pour each one of these fluids back into, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create equal weights in each one of these jars, and then we'll time how long it takes to pour back in there. Alright, obviously this is not an ideal situation, but we're just going to watch these fluids actually pour back into these bottles. So what I've done is I've just found 4 funnels. I wish they probably don't have, I know the bigger one on the end doesn't have the same diameter. But we got the low viscosity hard guard, and we're just going to pour it back in there, and you see how it's flowing. So flows pretty good, comes out relatively easily. Hopefully you can see that on video, and ends up actually pouring out pretty quick. Never really had any problems with the funnel. We're going to go ahead and do the high guard next, just to compare viscosity. Obviously this is a little bit bigger funnel, but I don't know if you can tell it, but it is a little bit more viscous, and it clings on to the edge of the lip of the mason jar just a little bit more. See how it's not quite as drippy as that's a technical term there. It's not dripping quite as much as the low vis was. So, and then last one, we'll go ahead and pour in the ISO 32 fluid. Like I said, this fluid is just stinky. It's actually a lot more less viscous than the low vis high guard. I think that kind of plays out with, hopefully it plays out with how it drips. You can see it dripping much sooner than the low vis. So now you've seen all 3 fluids. I think it's, it's an important discussion to have. Use the fluid that you think's best. I don't think there's necessarily a wrong answer. I use low-vis high guard in my X series because where I live is pretty cold. In December it was minus 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and I was outside blowing snow at minus 22 one time. So it's one of those deals that, maybe in Florida or somewhere in the south of the U.S., southern part of the U.S., maybe high guard's better because technically you shouldn't use it when it's over 86 degrees. It's up to you. Based on my impressions of the ISO 32 fluid here, I'm not really all that excited about it. It just does not, even when you put it between your fingers, it does not feel the same as the high guard or the low-vis high guard, either one. So what I did is I basically just kind of took and squished it between my fingers. And it's just not nearly as, I can't think of the technical terms for, all these things I'm doing are real technical here. But when you look at what the low-vis feels like compared to what the ISO 32 fluid in, the low-vis is just much slicker. It's like if you, there's been a lot of comparisons. Low-vis can be used in 2-cylinder power steering systems. But if you ever feel the difference between low-vis high guard and the John Deere power steering oil, it is shocking on how stark different those two oils are. If you want to spend $8.50, go buy a quart of that power steering oil. It feels really weird between your fingers. So anyway, hopefully that's somewhat informative. I've got another video after this talking about filters. I'll probably put that out in the next couple days after this one. So anyway, you can dislike it if you want to. You can like it if you want to. It's up to you. These are just my opinions. So anyway, thanks for watching.